Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of the Gaming Talk. Today is going to be a little bit of a controversy, so stay with me here. This is going to be a little bit more of a rant style video. Um, what that means is there may or may not be some random language that pops out, so bear with me on there. But this is more of a rant style video, and it's going to be covering Legion Alpha. And I understand that, what's portrayed here behind me is not Legion Alpha, but there is a few things that I would like to mention about the Legion Alpha and just what I have noticed so far. So, the first order of business is one of their new Legion Alpha builds that have just came out. The Destruction Lock is available to be played. The level 110 zones, you have World Questing available now. So all of that stuff looks very, very interesting to notice, and I've watched a couple of videos on Hell vs. Babyface, Asmongold, uh, Belluar, and Bajira, just to name a few. Shout out to all those people, but just to name a few, um, just watching their videos and seeing the alpha live is just the alpha on Legion looks totally amazing, and this leads me to my next point. There have been a few people, and by few I mean multiple, if we were to pull up the Battle.net forums, if you go over to the Legion Alpha forums, there's been a few people that have just been randomly spamming the entire forum. And I know Wowhead over there with Trade Chat and Peculia, sorry, had talked about that a little bit, and it's become a problem. And this is what this video is going to be mostly about. Now, I know I just now started recording videos, and I'm just now being able to start streaming for you guys, but the one thing I would like to talk about is that specifically, the Legion Alpha and how you should treat that alpha. Now, there is a bunch of shit rolling around, and there's a bunch of just total hell rolling around right now, and you have to understand what alpha means. Alpha is a unstabilized version of a game or game client that's basically stating this. When you get the alpha and you download it, you're going to have the very unstable version of the game. So things can crash, you can bug out in the sky, you can fall through a world. Stuff like that is supposed to be normal. And you're supposed to go report that on the forums. You're supposed to be doing all that constantly. Now, I know the community as a whole has been talking about, oh, well, I would like Legion Alpha, but I don't have it. I mean, I want to go test it. And I know there's people that are like, man, I have Legion Alpha, but I don't really want to go spoil myself. And it's just, that right there is something to considering talking about. Now, I'm one of those people that for you guys would love to show Legion Alpha, and that's something on my list of things to do. But I unfortunately have not gotten Legion Alpha. I have gotten the Battle.net Alpha. So, what anybody doesn't understand that, they probably have Legion Alpha if they have Battle.net Alpha. But what Battle.net Alpha is just basically the voice chat system that they're adding into the game. And the, I only have a couple of friends to be able to do that with. And so having those few friends to do that with, that alpha is stable. That alpha is totally stable. But within this Legion Alpha here, people have to realize that there are people out there right now that would love to be within the alpha. And I understand just looking at it briefly that you get the Legion Alpha friends and family or total streamer in YouTube. And like, I'm not going to throw a hammer down or anything, and I'm not going to say, oh, well, I'm a YouTuber, so I should get this. But I'm saying this as a community and as a whole. If you are willing to sit there and test content, if you are willing to sit there and report the feedback, you should be getting the alpha. And I understand they did a little bit of something like that for Miss Pandaria, but you get to a point where there's a point where you add too many people, and there's a point where you add too few of people. I feel like Mop was there. This is way too many people, and we need to cut back. So they just made it a friends and family build. And if you see me looking over here, I've got a second monitor running something open. So I've got something scrolling right now. But Legion Alpha is thrown with trolls. It's thrown with people who actually test content. And I don't want to break down right here, but you have to give the community some decency. You have to give us some decency, Blizzard, because you get to a point where you're just sitting there going, "Oh, let's test the training dummy." Oh, well, I mean, like I could sit here 6, 7 hours a day hitting training dummies, min-maxing my tune, or I could be sitting over on Legion Alpha having giving all the feedback I want. Like I used to main an assassination road in a very low level guild, and we know that from my videos beforehand. Now that I want to show more content for you guys, I have upped a little bit on my channel, and if you notice what I'm wearing here, this is a HyperX Cloud headset, Cloud 2 headset. It is extremely cozy. I recommend forging over some money to get it because this is the coziest thing you will ever get. But that's beside the point. Legion Alpha, for God's sakes. Like, it's understandable, you know, you have your friends and family, and you have the streamers, and you have the people who work there, and you have those trolls, and you have all of these little different categories. But you, for someone like me, and this isn't directly toward me, this is directly toward people that are like me, people who are around me, people who understand where this comes from. So, I'm going to try to explain this the best as possible. But this is where this is coming from. I sit in a mythic guild currently where we're currently downing Archimon. And well, not like downing Archimon, but we're on progression toward Archimon. And from rumors that I have heard, from you get to the point of, oh, I down mythic Archimon, so I have this. You get to, oh well, I just got back to the game and they gave me alpha. Like invites are so random that someone with an inactive account could have alpha right now. And I don't know if that is totally true, but from what I have been told, that is a couple of people I know personally have alpha, and they're not even subscribed to the game. They play alpha, but they can't give feedback because they aren't subscribed to the current retail game. It's annoying and devastatingly weird to know that you have people in your game right now that can test it. They can do all sorts of things with it. We can post videos about it. We can stream it. But they can't give feedback on the website. The one thing, the one thing that Blizzard is looking for is to give as much feedback as possible. And the thing behind that, like, this isn't something that I would do, but in the event that I was running a company, I would look at people who currently play the game as a whole, and I don't know if this is what they do over at their headquarters in Anaheim, but this is something that I would do, so just bear with me here. So you look at the gaming community as a whole, and you picture it like a giant circle. You take that circle, and you cut halves into it until it makes a certain amount of squares or pie pieces that you want. And within those pie pieces, you're randomly selecting people. That randomly selected person may not have the game. And so what I would do is I would look at people that have the game, and I would look at people from past expansions that have played the game constantly to know, okay, this class does this class does this. What happens if I break this? Like, you have to look at it from every angle possible to understand. Oh, well, this guy got picked because of this guy got picked because of this. I know a couple of people in my guild currently that have alpha. A couple of people in my guild have specifically stated, look, I have alpha, but I don't play it. Like, that to me just sits there and breaks my heart because you have to realize that could go to someone who could sit there and continuously test it and continuously break it and continuously find glitches, find randomly falling out of the sky. Like, I remember back in, I believe this was what Wrath of the Lich King. My Fury, my warrior in general, we had flying back then. And I flew up to the top of the world just to test it. Let go of my mount, and I fell straight through the world. You fall straight through the world, you can't do anything. I couldn't even log out of my tune because it wasn't standing still. Like, that's how bad this situation was. And when you Alt F4, if you go back in, you can't even log into that tune. Like, that's something that needs reported. You get on the Legion Alpha side of things, and you have those people that, aren't reporting bugs. You have those people that have the game client but aren't using it. Well, that could be thrown at someone who wants to use it and then gives feedback. Now, this is just coming from my point of view, and it just it doesn't it doesn't understand. I don't understand. Blizzard, if you could, like, and this isn't saying, oh, look at this video and comment on it, but if you could help the community as a whole understand where you get your random invites thrown out to and what we as a community need to do to get those random invites. I understand your little, oh, well, go to our website and beta opt in. I've beta opt in for the last 4 expansions and haven't gotten a single one. That's how many people in your game have that beta opt in. And I know as a person, it's like, oh, we can't add everybody to this opt-in because it'll look like Miss Pandaria, where you got to look at Miss Pandaria from a bright side. Miss Pandaria had so much content behind raiding that I personally wasn't a raider in Miss Pandaria until the tail end of it in Siege of Orgrimmar. That's when I started to become a raider. But before Siege of Orgrimmar, I logged in to do daily quests. I logged in to fly around on the just Pandaria as a whole, to kill rares, to go over to the Timeless Isle and just farm for hours because that is something I loved as a person to do. I know over on the Legion Alpha, there are people who sit there and farm gear constantly. There are people who are sitting there, farming, testing every spec out, testing everything possible. And if we get more people like that, you get an expansion that's well-rounded instead of an expansion. And this is probably gonna sound a little wrong, but you have to look at warlords from 2 ways: the casual person and the mythic raider. Personally, I have the experience of looking at both. I have friends right now that are leaving the game, and I have friends that are staying. And the only reason the friends that are staying is because they raid in Mythic and they haven't downed the bosses yet. And then we get just a second here. I'm gonna fly away from this person. But okay. So we get to a point where we're downing bosses. We're having fun because we're with our guild. You're with your certain amount of friends. And if those friends, go away, they are like, "Well, I've given this everything I have. I can't I can't stay here any longer because there's nothing for me to do." And then you invite them to Mythic raiding and they're just like, "Oh, well, this is too much of a burden. I don't want to do this." And so Warlords had the problem of having no content. And what I mean by that is your Apexis zones, your garrisons, the professions, all that stuff from a casualist point of view, all that crap was gated behind cooldowns. It was gated behind daily cooldowns. So the Apexis stuff was gated behind dailies. Um, your rep was gated behind dailies, except the Saber Stalker rep over in Tanan, which took more than one person to solo. Like this rogue right here can't even solo it because you start fighting one mob and 2 or 3 mobs come flying out of the sky and hit you in the face. Like stuff like that needs tested on the alpha. And it's just it's mind-numbing to look at both of those points of views and know from those points of views that you get people that trail off the game. Like you get people that are like, I don't raid, and LFR is a joke, and dungeons aren't a thing because I can dungeon on any tune. You can walk straight into the instance on a person that's 700 gear and clear the entire thing yourself. Legion, just looking at the content, you're going to be engaging in world quests. You're going to be engaging in heroic dungeons. You're going to be engaging in that content. And that is something and that is something that we need to test. You need to test that fully because with the world quests, can you solo them? Can you bring people in on the same world quest to do together? Can you go through heroic dungeons together? Like, will the artifact power level you up so fast that the artifacts, in heroic dungeons or in raids are going to be 2 different things? They're going to be 2 different amounts of stuff. And it's just, it breaks down to the point of you have people who don't play the game, you have people who play the game that don't give feedback, and you have people who play the game, give feedback, and give everything that you want. And then you have those trolls on the end that are like, this sucks, this doesn't work, this server broke. The reason the server broke was because they either took the server down to add an update, or B, it broke because you hit a mob wrong. It broke because you fell through the world. In alpha, it is an unstable build. What can go wrong will go wrong. It's just it's annoying. And before I blow up on camera here, I just want to say thank you guys for watching. I know this is a bit of a rant. The video ends here. I'm just going to talk a little bit over the WOD circumstances, but the video does end here. Like, comment, subscribe, and have fun, guys. So, with WOD coming to a close, Hellfire Citadel will officially have been out for 14 months. And coming from a person who has played those entire months right now, I have had plenty of content to do. You go through and you go through the daily bonus objectives, you go through and you do the mythic raids, you go through and you PvP. You have to look at the game as a whole. And if you don't look at the game as a whole, you're not going to be able to understand where things come from. So let's say you're tired of PvEing. Well, let's go PvP. PvP right now, and I understand why people leave from PvP. PvP right now, you're either killed on the spot or you're CC death. You can't move. And I don't know where DR is, and I don't have a video behind me to show this. My warrior yesterday in a battleground got stunned by 5 different abilities. Apparently all 5 of those abilities were on separate DRs. Because all 5 of those abilities lasted the entire length, and my character went 100 to dead in 12 seconds. But it's a prot warrior. And the only reason it took 4 people 12 seconds to kill my prot warrior, because the prot warrior can sit there and withstand so much damage. But that's why people leave PvP, because it's unbalanced, it's unfair, and that's understandable. But if you don't, and I'm going to close it out with this, if you don't look at the entire game as a whole, you're not going to understand where people are coming from. Have fun, guys.